Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're doing Gaming News Consolidated. This is January 5th through the 11th, and we got some stuff to chat about. What you're seeing on your screen right now is Tomb Raider 3, me just starting the South Pacific. And man, it's been a fun trilogy to play, the remaster. It's actually been really good. So if you can find a physical copy, they are out there. But yeah, I think it's $30 for all three games plus the DLCs. It's really good. Anyway, we're going to talk about the U.S. Appeals Court, which affects gaming. Not very often does that happen, but yeah, it is this time. We're going to talk about Microsoft's investment for this year, which is pretty insane. We're going to talk about some CES stuff, some Consumer Electronics Show stuff. We're also going to talk about new GPU cards. That'll be quite a long one for this one. And then, yeah, we got some other stuff, too, to talk about, like Private Division, Annapurna, Xenoblade Chronicles, Kingdom Deliverance 2, and Shadows. So, yeah, there's a bunch. What I basically do every week is I take time, generally a few hours, to watch videos, read articles, and put it all in one place for you, because it kind of gets frustrating to go between different channels or to watch multiple videos, which we all understand why they do that, right? It's to make money. But here it's just a podcast, roughly about an hour, give or take, and it's once a week. So then there's playthroughs too, just like Tomb Raider. Then, yeah, we're also doing Halo 1. But hey, let's go ahead and get into this. We got a lot to get through. So, U.S. Appeals Court, they've officially ended net neutrality. Now, we've covered this a few times here on the channel. And yeah, the appeal was actually from the telecommunications companies and the internet providers that were against the Federal Communications Commission. And the appeals court sided with the companies, not the FCC. So what is net neutrality? Well, this is basically forcing companies to treat all digital traffic equally by not prioritizing one over the other. And now that's gone. That doesn't exist anymore, thanks to the appeals court. Companies can now do what they want with their traffic, and also do what they want with aspects of their data. Because again, it's all controlled through their networks and servers and whatever. So an example of what this would look like is like there can be price increases for certain types of data, or there can also be changes in internet speeds for consumers when accessing competitors. So we're getting to the point now where not just in the gaming industry or even just for internet, but like everything is kind of interconnected or linked. Like we actually have a Steam OS operating on a third-party device now, which is kind of insane. We know that Game Pass is going everywhere. We know, too, that some competitors are making different partnerships or trying to get their apps on different competitors' stores and things like that. And so this really kind of becomes pretty interesting because now the providers, so like if it's their first-party servers, they can basically do whatever they want with the traffic. They're in control of that. And so, I don't know, most of us probably don't trust really big companies. So, yeah, we kind of generally think, at least a lot of us do anyway, myself included, was that companies will do what they need to do. Excuse me. Companies will need to do what they need to do in order to stay competitive, in order to make it more difficult for all of the third-party companies. And it's going to become more cutthroat in the future, whether it's smaller companies trying to start out or whether it's big ones trying to stay in power. And yeah, this could really get pretty interesting. But yeah, companies, they'll manipulate stuff. They'll slow you down. They'll charge you more. They'll do whatever they need to do, right, to basically get more of the consumer base and make more money. So the U.S. Supreme Court initially ruled for net neutrality, making sure that all internet traffic was traded equally between all of the servers, all of the companies. But yeah, now the appeals court has removed this and sided with the companies. And this has been back and forth since Obama was president. So it's been a while. And so now it's swinging the other way again. And yeah, personally, I got to side with Obama and Biden on this one. Because of the whole net neutrality. It's like it really doesn't seem like a good idea to allow massive companies that control tens of billions or even, trillions of dollars annually of user data to basically paywall services, access. I mean, we already see a bunch of that already. And now we're looking at internet. And so it's like we already pay for an internet provider. There's already competition there, but this can honestly get worse. And I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Hopefully we're wrong. And I'm kind of still split between this because I think companies should be able to do what they want with their data, with their servers. But then when you're making or having such a big influence on the data usage on the market, you're having more. I don't know. You're giving more control. Yeah, I am split on this. Because one side I don't want the government controlling everything. I think it's better for the companies to do that. But then again, when you have companies that are so big, that are, roughly $1 trillion or more dollars, or hundreds of billions, or they're the biggest in their market, that's a monopoly too. And I don't like monopolies. So we'll have to see how this goes. But let's continue on. Microsoft has said that they're going to be investing $80 billion this year in AI-enabled server farms to train AI models and applications around the world. $80 billion. The last time they did a big investment in AI was $10 billion to OpenAI in 2023. $80 billion is almost all of the net income that Microsoft made in 2024. So I looked it up. They made like $85 or $86 billion. And they're putting basically all of the money that they made after taxes and paying employees, pumping it into these AI server farms that they want to make and create. And so, they're investing hard. They honestly want to be first. This is why they've been investing in the first place. There's kind of why there's been this kind of ravenous push with other companies trying to create other AI things, other chatbots, other uses for AI, other applications. And unfortunately, we've seen layoffs too because of this race to be the first to make the best AI possible. And even at CES, we got to see a definite increase in robotics. And so, that's another race that's starting is robotics. And then eventually, we're going to marry AI with robotics. And AI will continue to improve. We made fun of it in 2023. But this isn't a joke anymore. This is real. And we're getting to a point where a lot of money is being invested. A lot of companies, small and big, are using AI to save costs. And the most expensive part of any business is the employee. So, think about your future a little bit because, this matters. And so do you. And, you need to be able to have a secure job. And, this isn't going to get any better. So, and I remember too, people complaining, and still are, about Activision using AI tools and AI art for Call of Duty. And it's well, so does everybody else. Honestly, everybody does. Including Rockstar making GTA 6, including Bethesda making Starfield. We're talking about AI help all the way since Hello Games made No Man's Sky and released it. This is not a new thing. It's got different words or different terms. But it's the same thing, but it is accelerating. There's more people getting into the space. And this is here to stay. I have no doubt in my mind. We did get word too that Xbox Developer Direct is going to be on January 23rd. So I'll be covering that here on the channel. Destin, a big name in IGN, he's quitting after 13 years. You'd know his face and recognize him. But he's going to be going independent. He's got a new show called Save State Plus. That's on his thumbnails for YouTube. You can find him at Destin L, or Destin, excuse me. That's DESTIN, capital L. You can find him over at YouTube. And he's been doing, he's been covering stuff for a long time. It's a passion of his, just like mine. And I really value his opinion on quite a few things. But not all of us like that he was at IGN. But like he was a bright spot at IGN. And yeah, he does a really good job. And so, he'll be going independent on his own. His name, Save State, comes from each vid being basically a save in a game, or like a snapshot at the industry. And he's basically cataloging the gaming industry, and he has been for 13 years with IGN, and now he's just going independent. So I think that's great. His biggest focus is to use his channel to represent us. He said that's actually something that's really lacking with a lot of gaming news, is that it's more representing the companies, it's more representing the game publisher and stuff like that. And he wants more news to focus on representing gamers, the players. And so that's really awesome. This is what he tried to do as best he could at IGN. I'm sure there was some hiccups there. But yeah, now he'll have more freedom to actually do this. His plan, too, for his channel is to do interviews. His first big one, which is coming, I think, later this month, is actually going to be Phil Spencer. And he wants to ask the hard questions. He wants to get some input. He doesn't want to be tiptoey around everything. He doesn't want to be rude, of course, which is good. But he does want to also ask some of the harder questions. He's also going to review games when he can. He's going to visit studios, and he wants to cover the news. So if you're looking for a pretty good resource, other than mine, of course, right? If you're looking for a pretty good resource of gaming news, his would be pretty good. Again, his show is called Save State Plus. You should be able to find that on YouTube. Just a quick note here. Razer, the company that makes like PCs, computer accessories, headsets, that kind of thing, controllers, they're making their own streaming service for games. Now, this is going to be a feature that's already added. You're not going to have to pay for it. I initially thought it was a subscription service, but that's not going to be the case. But yeah, it's going to be basically, if you have a PC, you can now stream to your mobile device as long as it's close, kind of like what the PlayStation Portal was, which this might become more of a independent streaming service, just like the Portal did in the future, so we'll have to see. But yeah, they're getting into the race too. Streaming is another hot thing right now. All right, let's talk about CCS. We got to see the 50 series GPU cards. Now, disclosure, okay, I don't know a lot about PC stuff. I used to keep up with it way, way back in the day, like 20 years ago, when I was in high school and stuff and in college. But yeah, it's just so convoluted. I just wanted a plug-and-play platform like a console, so that I could just play my games and play with friends and stuff. And yeah, that's where I continue to play all of the computer stuff. It's cool that the options are there, but it's just not for me anymore. I'm busy working, busy being a dad, being, a husband. Yeah, I'd rather spend my time there. Believe me, it's wonderful. But yeah, the 50 series came out, so we got to see up to the 5070 and the 5090. These are basically $550 up to $2,000. The 5060 wasn't shown at the showcase. The thing that caught my attention, though, was that how much work is actually done through AI drivers and not the GPU itself. And this is why we're talking about this. Not necessarily because of AI, but because we're kind of starting to cheat the GPU, at least the cheaper versions of it. So let me get into this. So the 50 series has a big jump in tensor cores, which are for AI stuff. We're also going to get DLSS4, Reflex 2, and higher frame rate generation. DLSS4 is basically just a better upscaler for resolution, less load on the hardware. FrameGen is now going to be adding 3 extra frames out of the 4 that aren't rendered by hardware. And so that's basically 75% of the frames aren't even real. They're not generated by your hardware. It's just a believed representation by the AI of what it's going to look like. Isn't that crazy? But again, when you have, 120 frames or whatever, you're really not going to tell. But like when you start doing the math, 75% of those frames aren't real. You also have ghosting, artifacting, and smearing, aliasing problems. It does create more issues. It even creates more lag, which I was pretty freaking surprised, actually, how big of a jump in lag it was. But yeah, we'll get into that too. And then we also have Reflex 2. This is actually to help with the latency of adding all of these extra frames. Because, again, you're not actually having the hardware natively render stuff. You're having software do this. But yeah, by adding more frames, your latency is going up pretty considerably. Vex, he's got a pretty good channel. He covers a lot of CPU stuff, which is great, and some other things too, of course, in the industry. But yeah, Vex showed on Cyberpunk as an example of a game that when he turned all of this stuff on, his latency was up 50%. So he basically went from like 30 to 25 milliseconds of being rendered to like high 50s. Like it was kind of insane. With some features, he was going from like 30s to 50s. So yeah, there's a pretty big jump there in latency when you're using your frame gen. And this is why we have Reflex 2. It's basically another software program to lower the latency itself to combat that, because that's going to affect you when you're playing games, when you're playing, or something competitive or whatever, like COD, especially the faster paced it is. Which is why I partly think people like Marvel Rivals so much, is that it's slower paced, you can anticipate, it's not super insane crazy, like Omni movement with Black Ops 6. Now, while I like Omni movement, it is extremely fast paced, and that's not for everybody. So what's incredible is like the NVIDIA CEO, I can't pronounce his name, says that with all this, so the frame gen, DLS4, Reflex, all that stuff, out of 33 million pixels that are created or that you see on the screen, 2 million are actually rendered by the PC. Think of that. 33 million pixels that you see in a sample, and only 2 million of them are real. The rest of them are believed generated by AI software and drivers. That's 94% of what you're seeing in a way is fake. Like that is that is wild. And again, that 94% is all created and generated by all of the software, by all of the quote AI that's integrated into these 50 series. This is the same thing with streaming. 100% of that is fake in a way. Well, at least it's, well, no, let me take that back. It's actually being generated somewhere else and then provided to you remotely. So that's actually, quote, real. But yeah, now we're getting into this AI thing where it's like the AI is interpreting what the next frame is going to be. It's not actually knowing what the next frame is going to be. It's predicting. And man, that is a really key point for me. Because yeah, this is starting to get crazy. We also did look at the difference between, or I did personally, you can look at this in NVIDIA's website if you wish, the specs between the different series, all the way to the 20 series, I think. But yeah, we looked at the difference between the 40 and the 50, and taking a look at the 70s and the 80s, they're actually fairly close in almost everything. So one big difference is GDR6 versus GDR7. Also, the tensor core count is quite a bit more on the 50 series. There's also more ray tracing teraflops. The shader cores, we actually don't have the numbers for these on the 50s, so that we can't make a comparison. But basically, there's also the other things like features only available on the 50 series, which of course is like paywalling your way to, hey, buy our stuff, right? Which is kind of disgusting. Some people have said too on their channels that that while NVIDIA is putting their newest AI or software stuff into their newest graphics cards, AMD isn't doing this with their 9070, but that's actually not the case. It has been reported by AMD themselves that their latest software features are just going to be on the 9070s. So I also want to make that clear because people were getting that wrong this week. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's like the new features with the 50s. It's like a software paywall. It kind of feels like PSSR, actually, with PlayStation Pro. Is like, hey, we have this software AI generative thing to improve the picture, to make things better. but you got to pay for it. And so yeah, that's probably becoming more of a real thing too. We can probably see that with the next gen. So while I'm not a PC guy, it's pretty clear to me that the companies are still trying to work around the hardware cost and still provide better gaming graphics and frames through software because it's cheaper that way, right? Software is always cheaper than hardware. But this also just creates more issues. So they're doing this to give an increase in performance so that they can sell you something, but also keeping it affordable. If the average PCer could actually afford a $1,000 GPU plus, I think they would do that. We got to see that with the 40 series, basically, $800, $1,500. They were pretty expensive. But yeah, this time with the 50, the focus is more on software, not hardware. This is the same thing with cloud streaming. It's more focused on kind of software applications, internet speeds, instead of actually providing you something that's real. And I don't really like this. If it was me wanting to buy a graphics card today, I'd probably do a 4080 or a 4070 Ti or something like that, or even see what AMD has and maybe pick one of those. But I wouldn't be excited about doing the 50 series unless I needed a really big workstation or something. Then yeah, I'd go for the 5090. Or if I needed to upgrade, sure, why not? But like if you have a 40 series, you basically don't need a 50. That was actually the recommendation from several channels. And yeah, if you want to see more about this, you can. I will link two guys down below. They're PC guys. They've been PC guys forever, and they know a heck of a lot more than I do. But yeah, if you're interested, I'll link them down below. That's Ordinary Gamer and Vex. And so yeah, they do a great job of covering some of this stuff. But yeah, we're kind of getting away from again, hardware. And this is how these companies are, finding ways to save money, is they're not actually providing native hardware to run your stuff. They're just wanting to give it to you digitally in some way. So we've seen this even with physical games. We've seen this with streaming or the cloud, making it easier access. And while that's nice, it's not a better experience. So we're going to have the premium experience, which is all hardware, right? And then we're going to have the affordable experience, which is all going to be as much software and AI and streaming and digitization as possible. And that's not a future I'm excited for. That sucks. But again, what are we going to do? We don't control the companies. They do. You can't vote with your money, of course. But I think the younger generations, I don't think they really care about any of this stuff, at all. So, yeah, it's interesting. But wait, there's more. Excuse me. The AMD is doing the same thing. Like I said, they're putting out FSR4 anti-lag 2 on their RX 9070s. Again, this is an improved upscaler, pushing extra frames, increasing the latency, and then having anti-lag 2 to help with latency problems. And the MSRP is expected to be at basically $700 or less. We don't have a confirmed price yet, so I want to make that clear. Some channels were not making that clear when I was doing my research. There's also no benchmarks either, but we do at least have the specifications of what's in the graphics card. But it is expected to be about equal to a 4080, which is pretty good, or the top of the line 470. So, ooh, that was a bad death right there. That sucks. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the competitive market. I still think NVIDIA, of course, is going to win. Most people have an NVIDIA graphics card, but AMD is pushing some stuff, and they're trying to catch up, and they're getting a little bit more attention now. But yeah, this fake image generation in the future, it's getting frustrating, and the companies feel like they have to do this again with providing software improvements instead of hardware improvements, because the average guy like you and me can't afford a $1,000 plus GPU card. I would even say a lot of us can't even afford a $700 or $800 GPU card anymore. And one benefit too, with new graphics cards coming out, the used ones are going to be cheaper. last gen or last series, whatever you want to call it, they're going to be cheaper now because these are actually going to come out. All of the new cards are going to be coming out in January this month. So yeah, just keep your eyes peeled. And it's basically toward the end of the month, all within about a week of each other. But yeah, I think that's 23rd through the 30th, I believe. So yeah, but yeah, it's just interesting with these graphics cards providing you fake imagery, for a better gaming experience while adding and giving more problems. I just think that's interesting. Resident Evil 4 remake. They've sold over 9 million copies now. And this is actually a pretty big win for Capcom. Now, they have had some pretty big sales with Black Friday and holidays and etc. And I've bought into some of those. Excuse me. So it's not like they got all of that 9 million at a high price or whatever. They did also have some microtransactions in the game. But yeah, this is a pretty big win for Capcom because like their kind of Resident Evil series has been, in my opinion, deteriorating. Because they tried the whole VR thing, they tried smaller experiences. It's kind of like and so now they're remastering some of the older stuff, and they're selling pretty good. And yeah, I gotta say too, Resident Evil, at least I went through about half of the game, I think. And man, what a fun game! Yeah, that was great. It was actually my first time, and it was really good. Really good remake. And so, yeah, see, it's just an example of like if you make a fun experience for the player, if you put the player first, you're going to make money as a company. Even if it is a remake, like Resident Evil 4 or Dead Space, or like Final Fantasy Crisis Core. Like those made some pretty good money. But yeah, what are companies going to do? They just going to remake and remaster everything? We're definitely getting a heck lot more of those, which I'm not excited about. I want some new IPs, but again, it's like, don't make decisions for your story and characters based off of DEI, right? Just make the stories, okay? Try to keep the politics out of it would be wonderful. That's why we play games. It's to disconnect us, to get away from this kind of stuff. Especially me. Especially I do. Being able to have a disconnect is necessary. And I don't want to have to deal with real-world problems in my video games. That kind of sucks. So also at the CES 2025 show, we got to see Acer putting out a new handheld, bringing it to the market. We got the Nitro Blaze. There's an 8 and an 11, I believe. These are referencing to how big the screens are, so 8 inches and 11 inches, right? Makes sense. But yeah, this, the big one, an 11-inch screen, is like 10.95 inches, which is really, man, it's really big. Basically, it's the length of your forearm. Cut it off at the wrist and the elbow, and that's how long it is. It's pretty nuts. It's also pretty heavy, too. This is about 2.3 pounds, and for comparison, the Steam Deck is 1.4. So this is almost this is like a 70% increase in weight, doing the math. It's a really big jump in weight. And yeah, it's $1,100 if you're interested. I can't afford that, that's for sure. This will be launching in Q2 of 2025, so the second batch of 3 months. April, May, and June. It's going to have a 2 terabyte hard drive. It's going to have Hall effect joysticks and triggers. Yay! Hall effects are great. Excuse me. As long as you can go in and actually change and reset your joysticks to 0, that's necessary because they do still drift. The thing is that the sensors don't actually wear out. That's what the Hall effect magnets are for. But the joysticks, they do still kind of wear out, but if you can center them to 0, that's really nice. Like some of the nicer or more expensive or like elite controllers, it's really handy to be able to do that. We're also going to be getting 120 frames per second on the screen. I also saw through a few articles that there was 144 frames per second, but I saw 120 more often. And the language sounded more confirmational about 120. So I think that's actually what it is. Yeah, Acer's getting into the show now. And yeah, just more competition, baby. Also at CES 25, we also got to see the Lenovo Legion Go S. This is a new one for them. This is $500. And this will actually run SteamOS, which is crazy. So Steam has never been on any third-party hardware before. It's just been on the Steam Deck. And of course, with like the Steam Machine and some other stuff. This does too have a bigger battery than the previous Legion, which is great, but it only has 512 gigabytes of space for storage, and I don't know if this is expandable. We're not sure about other specs. Looks like we're looking at 32 gigs of RAM instead of 16, but again, this is not confirmed. I couldn't get like a for sure answer on this with how the writing was done in certain articles, which was frustrating. But there will also be 2 Windows 11 models, and these ones will be bigger and beefier in specs. One of them will be $600 with a 1 terabyte SSD. Will also be 16 or 32 gigs of RAM. Again, I'm not sure which. And then the flagship model will be $730 with maxed out specs. Nothing super concrete on exactly what that is, but I imagine a 2 terabyte hard drive and also 32 gigs of RAM to play your video games, which would be double of what the Xbox is. That would be crazy. Yeah, that's pretty wild. But yeah, it looks like you'll have to choose. A lot of people on these channels, and even some articles were speculating that, oh, we're going to have it to where we can have Game Pass and SteamOS on the same device and have like the best of both worlds, because we'll be able, with Steam, we'll have all the Steam stuff, right? Plus all of the PlayStation games, or at least a lot of them. And then also with Xbox, we're going to be able to have Game Pass. We're going to be able to stream our own games through the store. We're going to have access to the Xbox store. But no, that's not the case. I'm sure somebody is going to figure that out, but at least as stock, buying it off the shelf, you're either going to have a Steam OS model, and Valve made that very clear that that's actually what they want in their third-party partnerships and devices. And then there's also going to be an Xbox version. So make sure when you're shopping for the Legion Go S, if you are, that you actually know what you're buying. Because one's going to be Steam and 2 are going to be Xbox, basically, or Windows, right? So yeah, just be aware of that. If you honestly want both, I would just get a PC. You can get Steam, and you can get Game Pass, and the Xbox store, and you can stream all your stuff. I mean, you can get the best of both worlds literally right there on PC already. It's current. It's there. You've basically merged a lot of PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam all together on one device. It's called the personal computer made in the 1980s. There you go, folks. One thing the Go S will not have is it won't have removable cons on the side, so they'll be connected to your screen. Let's move on. Court filings reviewed by GameFile, which I like seeing their stuff every so often, found out that some of the bigger COD games we've had recently are huge budgets. I mean, if we thought some other games were big, these ones take the cake. So Black Ops 3, this was 2015, basically 10 years ago, was $450 million to make. I want that to sink in. 10 years ago, when gas was like $2 or $1.85 a gallon or something crazy, that is insane. They sold 43 million copies so far. Modern Warfare 2019, the reboot, was $640 million plus, with 41 million copies sold. Still sold a lot more than I thought they would. That's crazy. And then Cold War, which was released in 2020, was over $700 million to make. And they sold over 30 million copies so far. It, of course, hasn't had as long to sell compared to like Black Ops. But yeah, there definitely is a waning in sales. I'm sure they noticed that. But yeah, they haven't changed anything yet. I'm sure, too, more of Cold War is going to sell now that Black Ops 6 is going to be released, because it's kind of picking up some of the story of Cold War and bringing it into Black Ops 6. So I'm sure Cold War is going to sell more copies. And generally, there are sales it does get definitely cheaper. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy. These are all too before Game Pass. So every copy, that was the only way to buy it, was you had to buy a copy for yourself. And this is too before Xbox owned them. So yeah, I just think those are really crazy numbers. And yeah, running a high average on game sales, because these games don't normally go down in price very often, or really at all, with what we've seen on the store. Kind of taking an average of what the cost could be per unit, they're making like $1.5 billion each at a minimum. And these are just units sold. Some of these games, like Black Ops 3, are like they've made over $2 billion with units sold, which is, again, pretty insane. And again, it's not like these go on sale very often. And then there's also the DLC. Okay, we got to include that too. That'd be in addition to that overall revenue growth. We got to add the microtransactions, the season pass, the battle pass, the black cell if it's in there, and whatever else. I mean, they have made billions off of each game that they've made. It's billions a year on average. That is crazy. That is crazy. Now, I would love to see the breakdown of Black Ops 6 because, well, now we have Game Pass. So, how's that working out? Are they still making enough? Is it better? Is it worse? I'm just curious. I'd just like to see the breakdown. I don't know if we ever will. But yeah, basically $1 billion per game is pretty crazy. Now, Modern Warfare 3, I don't think they sold as much because, again, Modern Warfare 2 was frustrating. Modern Warfare 3, in my opinion, was definitely a heck of a lot worse. I did my own review on it. And, yeah, nobody liked anything really about Black Ops 3. Or, excuse me, Modern Warfare 3. So, I don't know if that one made $1 billion. It probably did, honestly, because there's microtransactions and all that other kind of stuff. But yeah, how crazy is that? All right, let's move on. Let's see. Sony also shared at CES that they're making a couple of films. We're going to be getting a Helldivers 2 film. Frick yeah, I'm so excited. I want to see that. And then Horizon Zero Dawn film, which I couldn't care less. We are also having an Until Dawn film, April 25th of this year. If it's in the theaters, maybe I'll go see it. But again, I'm not expecting greatness. Same with the Minecraft movie. Help. And but anyway, I'm going to try to see what I can in theaters and then review it for you guys as an adaptation. And the biggest thing is, like, did they stick to the lore? How's the production value? How's the story and the characters? Like, we'll see. If you are interested in those, I have a small playlist. Just a couple, I think. I did a Borderlands review, and I also did the Lara Croft animated series, Season 1. I did a review on both of those. And yeah, that's in a playlist somewhere on my channel at Gaming Garbage 22. Let's talk about Private Division. Looks like the portfolio anyway, and some of the staff actually got picked up by Haveli. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. Haveli. So Haveli. But looks like Private Division at the time had about 20 staff because they had some pretty serious layoffs. Thanks to Take-Two Interactive. And so when Haveli bought them, they got the staff. They got Private Division's portfolio too that they were working on, and those games. And so Tales of the Shire is one of the games that's going to be coming out in March. They also did Kerbal Space Program, and number 2 was really pretty screwed, which is unfortunate. And they are currently working on an unannounced title. Chartered by Game Freak, which is the Pokemon company. So we'll have to see what that is. Havel also took the staff from all of the ex-Annapurna employees. Remember, I was saying earlier that the employees at Annapurna could not agree with the owner, and so the owner walked away from the table, and the employees basically walked out of the company. And it was like all of them. So it sounds like, I don't know if all but at least some of the ex-Annapurna employees are going to work for Private Division and be under Haveli. So yeah, that'll be pretty interesting. Annapurna right now, I had to see where they were, but it looks like they have a new firm giving them support, Pop Agenda. They're currently working on releasing 6 indie games this year in 2025, but after that, I don't know. We're not really quite sure if they have a future. So these are projects they were already working on. They were wanting to get these out. They're committed to getting them out, and then after that, I don't know. We'll have to see. Annapurna has helped publish some wonderful games that I've enjoyed a heck on. Enjoyed them to death, some of them. Like Ashen, that's a great one. But, yeah, I don't know if they have a future. We'll have to see. But yeah, Private Division was sold by Take-Two Interactive. So they laid off employees, and then they, we're going to close the studio, whatever. And that's happened also before with Tango Gameworks, where, they were technically going to be closed, but Krafton stepped in and said, hey, we want to buy them. And so, yeah, not all hope is lost. Some of these can actually get bought because some other smaller companies see value in the opportunity for growth, and so they take it, which I think is great. Next, we're going to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles X. They're actually getting a remaster. So this game is actually pretty old. This came out on the Wii U. Currently on eBay for $70 and up. I've seen upwards of like $300, which is crazy. But yeah, the remaster is coming out in March 2025. There's some life improvements. We do know that this is, as far as we know, it's only going to be for the Switch 1. We don't have anything official for the Switch 2, which should be also releasing this year. And then new players, too, can jump in. They don't have to have the entire Xenoblade Chronicles gameplay story. There's a summary at the beginning for you, and then you can start your game. So that's actually kind of cool. There is also a trailer available if you wish to check it out. But yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles, man, their games are always expensive, always maintain their value or even go up in value. I remember one Xenoblade Chronicles that we had at GameStop when I worked there was like $100 on the shelf. It's like, holy crap. That's crazy. All right, last couple of things here. Shadows and Kingdom Come Deliverance. So let's go through Shadows. It's delayed again. March 20th, 2025. That's the release date now. And it's not like after, what is that, a month and 6 days, they're really going to be able to improve much. Just a little bit more polish, I guess. I'm not really sure exactly what they're doing. I think it's more kind of shareholder stuff. But yeah, in the same post released from Ubisoft, they said that they're hiring third-party analysts to come in and help the company. Because, yeah, they're hemorrhaging money. They're hemorrhaging a lot. And the investors, they're not very happy either. So they've lost a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money left over. And then Shadows, of course, has to perform the way they need it to. So even if they still sold millions of copies, it wouldn't be enough. Which is pretty wild. We did get a, quote, new 12-minute video that was circulating on some channels, so I checked it out. And this is apparently new 12-minute video gameplay of Shadows. If you want to find it pretty easy, PlayStation actually has a video up on their channel. But this isn't posted by Ubisoft at all, which is kind of weird. Again, I saw it on PlayStation's. But yeah, the video is not 12 minutes of gameplay. The gameplay, if you could call it that, it's like short clips of like 5-10 seconds, is 5 minutes and 45 seconds of the video. There's 3 minutes of screenshots, which we've already seen. And then there's another 3 minutes of narrating features and the setting of the game as like a selling point, like a promotion. It's also got a watermark and an end screen by Wild Gamer. So I hope he made some money off of it. That would be great. Yeah, this is just kind of weird. It's like, this is not a 12-minute video. There's some misrepresentation there. And it's not misrepresented as far as I can see by Wild Gamer. It's misrepresented by everybody else that's talking about this. Because, yeah, it's like, have you actually watched the whole thing? Because, yeah, it's not 12 minutes of gameplay. Not even close. And then, too, it really doesn't even look that good. It's, again, all of these broken up segments of movement, of executions, attacks, combat. It's just choppy. It's just kind of weird, right? It's almost like a tech demo that you're showing to your lead of game design at a studio. It just, I don't know. It just looks weird, and it doesn't look great. So it's not helping promote the game at all. Whether that was intended or not, I don't know. Again, it's kind of weird. But yeah, it looks like there's roughly 6 minutes of improvements, maybe visual style, maybe that's what the screenshots are for. And then again, some of the movements and animations, which, yes, some of them do look good, but again, it kind of looks generic. Yeah, it doesn't look great. Also, too, the optics around this game, it's really bad. Some people are excited, and yeah, they will sell millions of copies, but I'm not sure, again, if it'll be enough. Star Wars Outlaws sold millions of copies, but the optics around Ubisoft is even worse now after that game. And so, yeah, Ubisoft is fighting perception. There is no amount of delay that will fix the perception until potential players actually see the game and the game comes out. So I don't think the delay is helping it any. It might actually be hurting it. The gameplay and the mechanics, they don't look any better. I mean, it's an Ubisoft game. It's Assassin's Creed. Like, it's fine. Visually, the graphics and textures, they do look really good. It looks great. Wonderful job. But again, that's not going to sell the game. That's not going to sell the game. So yeah, we also have highlighted areas in yellow paint, like the Division. So that just looks bad. We're tired of that. We're also highlighted combat stuff with red and blue glints on weapons. And then, excuse me, enemies are also highlighted, showing that they're like staggered or tired. So we've gone from, this is so stupid, we've gone from like the most telegraphed Assassin's Creed game ever, and they're expecting to sell a ton of copies. It's like, okay, your player base that started with Assassin's Creed or jumped in at Syndicate or something like that, or Brotherhood, okay, we're all older now. We're capable. And I don't really think the younger audience is interested. Because, I mean, they're still playing Fortnite and Roblox and all of that other stuff. So again, it's like, I don't think they understand their audience. The older folks, like myself, like if you're in your 20s and 30s, you're probably the target audience, or those that would at least be interested in Assassin's Creed. But if you're a teenager, no, probably not. Or at least there wouldn't be very many of us. So yeah, I don't think they understand their audience very well. I mean, again, we'll see with sales numbers. We'll keep up with it toward the end of the year. But yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what they're doing. And some people, too, have said, yeah, Ubisoft is trying to sink their company so they can buy shares at a cheaper price. And it's like, they're, excuse me, the biggest part of their value is in their shares. So if they make the shares crash, they're broke. And that doesn't make any sense. Why would you crash your own shares? I could see maybe other companies like Tencent wanting the shares to crash. But again, they're not responsible for the material. They're not putting any of this out. They're not doing the marketing. Okay, they're just another shareholder. So I really think they just don't know what they're doing. I think that makes the most sense. And they don't know how to fix this, which is why, hint, hint, they're bringing in analysts, third-party analysts, to help actually get their publishing company on track with making their games. So they know they need help. They know that the customers aren't happy, that they're not hitting the sales numbers they want. They know that the employees probably aren't generally happy because they got 20,000 of them. And they also know the investors aren't happy. They've been making a lot of ruckus since last year. So they know they're losing their company. And if you want your shares to crash, you don't buy and hire an analyst or analysts, plural, to come in and help you figure out stuff. So, but yeah, March 20th if you're interested. I'm still thinking of maybe picking it up for a month so that, I don't know, I can just see it for myself. Because I think there's going to be a lot of expectation. How can I say this? I think there's going to be a lot of rose-tinted glasses against Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I don't think people are really going to be able to see it objectively like they should. So I kind of want to see it for myself, because the optics around Shadows has been really bad for like a year and a half now. So yeah, it's been flipping horrible. All right, last one, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. The devs have allowed a few to actually play the game early. They get to play the first 6 hours, and then they're cut off. This is honestly a lot more time than what they got previously for Kingdom Deliverance 1. And this really is a sim. So this is an RPG, but this is much more of a sim even than Stalker 2, Fallout, or Skyrim, in my opinion, with what I've seen. Angry Joe Show did a wonderful job having about an hour and a half of content to share of actual gameplay and narrating and just giving some thoughts about the game that they played, the test or the demo if you want to get it. But yeah, this is very like sim heavy. So this is totally next level stuff. And this also builds off of the first game that they had. So if you already thought the first game was difficult or too nuanced or very meticulous on some stuff, this is going to be worse in your opinion. So the game doesn't hold your hand whatsoever. You have to be able to find locations and items on your own. You have to look and use your eyeballs, okay? There's not stuff on the screen to tell you. There's basically zero of that. You can make potions. It's not like you can just instantly heal yourself or whatever. And yeah, you make potions with stuff you find in the world. And you even make potions to save your game. To save your game. Which is pretty crazy. There are also skills in the game too. There's combat stances. You can improve these skills over time. But again, you have to put in work as a player to actually get good and to practice and to train. It's not just like clicking a button or clicking a symbol or something and ta-da, you're better. No, you actually have to put in work as the player and actually go through active training to actually improve those skills. Whatever you wear also affects conversations. Nice clothes, bloody clothes that you haven't washed yet, all of this affects how you interact with people and NPCs in the game, which is great. I do want to reemphasize this is not multiplayer, okay? It's just NPCs in the game. Items also affect stealth, so there's an entire noise level, which is crazy. So if you kind of wear like metallic type of stuff or rigid type of stuff, it's going to increase your noise level and you'll be easier to hear with enemies. There'll also be sleeping. You'll need to sleep as a character. You'll need to eat as a character, deal with bleeding probably. And then after a fight, you'll get blood on you and you'll have to wash up. You can take showers or you can at least wash your hands and your face to be a little bit more presentable. And that'll affect too how people interact with you and stuff. So yeah, this too is also truly an open world. And you even get branded if you get arrested too much, which that'll of course affect stuff in the game for you too. So yeah, this is really an open canvas for choices. And pretty interesting. So yeah, there's huge potential here. Nothing's going to be the same for anybody. Even the same type of quests and stuff, there's different ways you can go about them. There's different ways you can complete them. There is, of course, some guidedness at the beginning of the game, right? Because the game's trying to teach you for those first several hours, but there's also a lot to learn in the game. So it makes more sense to have like a couple of hours or an hour to actually learn aspects of the game than like, let's say, an Ubisoft game where they hold your hand to death. And it's like, really, I just played an hour and a half of to get to the actual game. But yeah, this game does not hold your hand. You have to pay attention. You have to learn. This is very much a type of sim. Again, even more than Stalker 2, Fallout, or Skyrim. Or I'd even say, too, like Starfield. This is probably the most sim we've had in a very, very long time. So if you really like figuring things out, This will probably kind of be pretty fun for you. And doing the work, putting in the effort, and being rewarded for it in the game. That's going to feel pretty good. For those of us that like just to point and click, this is probably not the game for you whatsoever. So yeah, this does come out on February 4th. Make sure you're actually taking some time to look at reviews. You're watching gameplay, and yeah, if it is the type of game. And I will also link to down below the Angry Joe show to so that you can make the decision for yourself. But yeah, very steep learning curve for some stuff, and there's going to be a lot of things to learn. So there you go, folks. There's the news for the week. If you enjoy the channel, you can always follow me at Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube. We also do other stuff as well. There's playthroughs, there's deeper dives on certain aspects of things, and then reviews for games whenever we can do them. And we'll have a few coming up this year. Also, too, thank you for voting for the game that I'm going to review this year. Spend my own money at launch and then take time to review it, probably in that first 2 or 3 weeks. And the game that won is Chronos, the New Dawn. So thank you guys for voting, and you can look forward to that this year. We don't have an exact date yet of what that's going to be or when it's actually going to release, but it is slotted sometime for this year. If that game gets pushed back to 26, the other one you guys voted for is Crimson Desert. And I, too, am also extremely excited for that one. So with that, folks, hopefully you guys are doing well. Thanks for subbing. Thanks for being a part of the channel and stuff. It's been a blast. And just interacting with you guys. And you guys are what really makes the channel worth doing. Like, some of this stuff I keep up with, but I put in a heck of a lot more work at the end, at the end of it all, since I know that you guys are here for the information, the content, the entertainment. And that's just been really fun. It's just been really cool to do. So thank you for being a part of it. And yeah, here's to 2025, baby. It's going to be a busy one. And with that, I'll see you guys on the next one.